We've all encountered the naysayer, the dream killer. Am I right?
Yeah. I've met a few in my lifetime, for sure.
So have I. And I think even more now being on YouTube. They can be dream killers, misery loves company type of thing, right? The negative Nancy's.
The ones that can't succeed themselves, so they don't want to see you succeed either.
Yep. They have to bring you down with them.
Exactly. And today, we're going to talk all about them. We're going to kind of be your cheerleaders, y'all, so you can deal with these naysayers and get all that negativity out of your life. Hey everyone, I'm Laura.
I'm Kristen.
And this is Souls in Bloom, where we have candid conversations to try to help your personal growth. And today we're discussing naysayers. So, Kristen, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you would define a naysayer, other than the ways that we've already said
Right?
in the intro?
Geez, just like a real dream killer, someone who's just negative, but has to portray that onto you. They have to just nitpick in a negative way, take any flaw that you may have and just like run with it, make sure you really know about it, and just just try to take you down.
And I think we've all dealt with somebody like that in our lives, that just, no matter how happy you are about something, they just cannot be happy for you. And, that's what we're going to discuss today.
Or maybe even being very critical of you or what you're doing.
Yes. Oh,
so, yeah. Any type of, critique, negativity in that bad way, for sure.
So we usually like to start these conversations with like our own personal experience on these things. So Kristen, you mentioned, especially since being on YouTube, that you've really seen some naysayers. So like elaborate on that and how that experience has been and what you've dealt with.
So I think anybody on YouTube is a creator, obviously, but like an educator too. Like we're on here giving our knowledge, our creativity, teaching what we know. And for someone to come on here and in our comments to talk negatively about it or pick out negative things about our appearance or how we say things, or if we make a mistake, or even if we may not know something or is not correct about something, someone always has to be the naysayer and do that negative comment, write that negative thing, point out that flaw. And that's really not okay. Like, to me, I'm putting my vulnerability out there, and for someone to just knock it down, like, it hurts. It does hurt. So we're going to definitely talk about too, how to kind of flip that.
It's always so interesting to me too, that the people that are most critical, especially like in comment sections and things like that, are ones that have like no experience at all doing the same things.
Right.
It's not, you know what I mean? It's so weird to me that people are so critical of something they've never gone through themselves anyway. So like, I don't know. Why do people do that? I don't know.
And there's a way, like, there's a difference if someone's trying to help you and teach you something, or like a constructive criticism. It's also how it's worded, like make sure if you're being genuine and you really do want to like help that person, or give them a better piece of advice or something. There's always a way of saying it. And I don't think the naysayers, we can clearly see the difference. So it's just, it's hard, but we can't let it get to us.
Yeah, for sure. I have kind of a different experience. It's really not so much about being criticized in like such a vicious way, but more like a criticism in I say our, because I'm talking about me and my husband, our like lifestyle choices or something we decided to do. And the biggest example is when he and I decided to buy a house together. We bought a house when I was 23, was when we bought our first house. He was 25 and we were not even engaged yet. So we actually kind of had more of like, we were dating though. We had a kind of business minded approach to the whole process versus everybody's like, you're not even engaged yet. How are you going to move in with a guy you're not even engaged to? And, or like a girl, you know, in his case. But we were thinking about it more like, well, we could pay rent and like have nothing to show at the end of it, or we could get this house and be paying similar amount of money, but we'd have a piece of real estate that if anything, if we ever broke up, we could sell it, get the money back, or potentially profit off of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were looking at it more along those lines from like, you know, just basically a financial, you know, at the financial side of it. And we had the money for a down payment for like the FHA or whatever it is. There's a lower down payment you can do when you were buying your first house and all that. So we did all our research and everything, but let me tell you, the flack I got from friends and family was just like, everybody wanted to tell us how we were going to fail and how it wasn't going to work and how it was a terrible decision and this, that, and the other. And in the end, we got engaged, we got married, we sold the house, and we made a very, very sizable chunk of change off of that house.
Nice.
That if we had listened to all the naysayers, none of that would have happened. And because we made the money off of that house, we were able to put a good down payment on the house we live in now. And when we moved, just to keep on going with that, we got a lot of flack about that too, about moving, you know, 2 hours away. And we wanted to start a little homestead, a little farm. My husband at the time wanted a cow. We never got a cow because we don't have enough like grassland for a cow, but everyone laughed at us. They're like, you want a cow, Pot? You're going to get a cow. Yeah, okay, we'll see. Now, to be fair, we didn't get the cow, but we did own livestock. We still own livestock. And, you know, it's just a lot of naysayers. A lot of people wanted to tell us that we couldn't do it. So
you got to, well, everyone just has to believe in themselves. Don't let the naysayers get involved and get in your head, because they're not in your situation. Exactly. So they don't know exactly what's going on. So the only person that you need to be listening to is the person that's looking at you in the mirror. So exactly if you believe in yourself and believe that what you're doing or saying, you know, whatever the situation is good, and you believe in it, and, you know, then that's all that should matter. The naysayers, they don't know the whole, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah.
What's going on.
So why do you think, I have an answer myself, but why do you think that people naysay? Why do you think people are doing this?
It could be a bunch of different things. It could be a protection thing. Maybe that they're trying to protect us from something. Maybe they're jealous of what we're doing. Maybe they're just unhappy with themselves, and, you know, that misery loves company phrase, and they just have to take people down with them. That is really big. There's a lot of different things that go into it. It also depends on who it's coming from. Like, back to talking about, are they trying to protect you? So there's a lot of different things that is involved. But like I mentioned, at the end of the day, you make that decision if it's right or wrong, or if you feel comfortable with it, or, you know, whatever the situation.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. I bet, like you said, the only opinion that really matters is your own when it comes to yourself. So, I was thinking part of it, maybe not so much in the ones that are just like nitpicky, like, you know, I don't know, whatever negative stuff they want to say about videos, or like your background's messy, or like whatever, that kind of stuff is a little different. The people that are saying things like, you can't start a farm, or, you know, whatever, you can't start your own business. It makes me think that people, this is like this whole thought I had in my car. In general, in life, people love to make connections with other people, right? Like, that's a goal of people everywhere. When you start a conversation with somebody new, or people you know, you're trying to make a connection with them. You want to tell them an experience you have or an idea. And then generally when people are listening to you, they want to retort with something that relates, right? That's like how we all get along with people. And that keeps people comfortable and happy with each other. And then when you throw something out there that is just like completely out of their realm of possibility or anything they would ever do, they immediately want to take you back down and bring you back down to like where they are, because in their own mind they can't fathom that. And you're probably making them uncomfortable with this idea that they personally would never want to do, if that makes sense.
True. Oh yeah, I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And so there, I don't think it's coming from a malicious place necessarily, but it's more of like a speaking without thinking kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are these people who are criticizing you, are they really thinking about you, or are they thinking about them in your shoes? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And something else I wanted to mention was just be very, when you have these great ideas and these things you want to pursue, be extremely careful and selective with who you share that information with, especially if it's somebody that, you know, already has that proven history that they're not open to these new ideas. Because if you tell somebody, if you expect them to, you know, have this like, oh, wow, that's great. And then they're like, you want to do what? That's going to kill your motivation and make you feel like, oh, maybe this is a bad idea. Even though, like, you know, 5 seconds before those words came out of your mouth, you were all about it. Now that person's being a little, and now you're like, oh, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
yeah. I mean, you just got to go with what is true to yourself.
yes.
You know, you can obviously discuss things with others for, you know, advice and everything, but at the end of the day, it's what you feel comfortable doing, saying, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well,
And
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say what you were saying about, you know, you can always get advice. That's absolutely true too. I don't think you should just like hide things from people because you don't want to hear the other side of the story. But again, just be careful who you share with, because some people are going to be coming from a malicious, you know, headspace, and some are going to be coming from concern and, you know, true concern about your well-being.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a bad thing to have these conversations. I just think you need to go into them with realistic expectations, you know, and kind of have an idea in your head of how they're going to react before you tell them, like realistically, because you're going to want everybody to be excited about what you're excited about, but it may not be the case. And you need to brace yourself before you have these conversations for like them to not be as excited as you are.
Right. That actually goes into something I noted, I put a note down about, is that maybe if they are being like a naysayer about an idea that you're bringing to them, or, you know, something you're doing or whatever, if they, you can kind of like think of it as maybe like a different perspective, and maybe that they're showing you or telling you something that could be worked on or changed, or, you know, so don't always think that it's something so negative. Maybe it's just an aspect of what you're doing or saying, whatever the situation is, that can be worked on and bettered. You know, maybe they're picking out that little flaw so you can fix it.
Yeah. For sure. And if you do have those people that are just flat out rude or naysayers, they don't want to hear the positive side of it, they tell you can't do it, that's a perfect opportunity to use something as fuel to prove them wrong. When they say you cannot do that, you can say, watch me, and then do it, and do it successfully, and then rub it in their face later. No, just kidding. Well, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and the other thing too is I think generally, like in real life anyway, and it's kind of different when you're on like a platform like YouTube or any social media where anybody can come along and type something stupid. But in real life though, you kind of know who's going to be your supporter and who's going to be not so supportive, I think, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
I would think so.
And if you do have that person in your life that's just constantly negative, just like, you can choose who you spend your time with. I think people forget that sometimes. You know, they just continue these like relationships with people that are just not serving them at all. So if you've got someone like that in your life that's just constantly berating you, I don't know. I don't think you need to spend that much time with them unless they're like family and you're forced to, and you got to figure out how to, you know, navigate that situation. But
But even with that, you can distance yourself. You know, you don't have to cut them off completely,
Yeah.
but, you know, decrease the amount of time you're hanging out with them or talking to them on the phone or whatever. You know, just put that arm out and keep that distance. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like you're cutting them off completely. But I have had a friendship that I had to cut off because they weren't necessarily being negative towards me, like with me and like everything about me, but they were just negative in general. And
Mhm.
every time I talked to them, it was just always like, you know, there was always a problem, there was always something wrong, like, or this person, she was fighting with this person, or this person did that. And every time, and she would just text me and voice message me every day and just unload, and it was always negative. And it got to the point where I was starting to become negative and dwelling on things and finding like the negativity in things, and I'm like, wait, this is not me. Like, I'm not happy with this. Like this.
Yeah.
And it took me, you know, and then I felt bad. I'm like, well, I don't want to, you know, just cut off the conversation or stop talking to her if she needs somebody, you know what I mean? And, but it got to a point where I had to tell her, like, you know, you have to talk to these people sometimes and maybe bring it up to them. And maybe they don't even know they're doing it or acting that way or just, you
That's
know.
true too.
So I brought it up to her and it didn't change. So, long story
Yeah.
short, I did have to end that friendship. But I guess on an easier note of that, she's, you know, was a YouTube just person, not a YouTuber. So it was kind of easy because it was internet. You know, you just don't text or call each other, and then we go away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So that
businesses.
was a little easier of a situation, but if it's somebody in person, you know, it could be a little more difficult. But remember, you have to worry about you and your happiness and the happiness of your family and you know, your significant others. So you have to protect that.
So another way that you might deal with these people, if you're up to an open discussion about it, is maybe, well, first of all, and this may be hard for some of us to do, try not to get defensive when people are naysaying your ideas.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to talk about it, just shut it down. Like, listen, I appreciate your opinion on this, but I really don't want to have this conversation right now.
Hmm.
Or you can have the open conversation and try again without being defensive. Don't say, why did you say that? You can be like, oh, well, that's an interesting perspective. Like, what makes you say that? Or why do you
Hmm.
think I won't be able to do this? And blah, blah, blah. And maybe ask them, is this how you feel about yourself? Or is this how you actually feel about like me and my abilities? Because a lot of times it is just people kind of, what's the word? The word for it, where like they're taking their feelings about themselves and like is that displacement?
Portraying it onto you.
We'll use it for lack of a better word, but you know, projecting.
Projecting. I was
That's
close.
what, yeah, so close. It had a P in it. We're good.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like, you know, because a lot of times they are projecting onto you
Yeah.
about their feelings on things. So actually having them like engaging in conversation and asking them a lot of questions, you know, once you get people actually answering questions and thinking about it for themselves, and sometimes it can kind of alter their perception of it and kind of get more on your side of things, or at the very least you can plant some seeds in their mind for them to think about. So when you guys aren't talking in that moment, you know, like I'm very much like this. If you give me, like, my husband will have some radical ideas and I'll be like, I don't know about all that. But once we like break away from the conversation, I have some time to think about it on my own. Then I'll come back to it like, yeah, I can see how that might work. You know what I mean? So same thing. Just sometimes people need time to process stuff and you need to
Yeah.
give them things to process. If you just like shut them down, they're just going to be stuck already with whatever they already think. And that's going to be the end of it. So just consider talking in a nice way, not just not. I mean, if you want to, that's so tricky because sometimes you don't want to have those conversations, or you don't,
Yeah.
you know, people are just like so off-putting right off the start, like from whatever your idea is, that you don't want to talk about it anymore because you don't want your enthusiasm to be killed. So
Yeah. But they could be bringing up a point that you didn't think of. And
Yeah,
it could start out as something negative and naysaying that they're portraying onto you, but it could turn into something like, oh, I didn't think about that, or, oh, let me work on that in like a better way. So it could be helpful to have the conversation for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, Kristen, if someone is going to be that jerk, how are you going to deal with it? What's a way we can deal with it so that we're not internalizing it so much and like questioning ourselves?
So for the most part, for most situations, I like to turn the negative or the naysayer comments into a joke. Like, for example, when I first changed my nail shape into the stiletto, I got a ton of like hater comments. And I don't do it anymore, but I would respond to some of these, and I would just say, like, if you're going to troll on my page, I'm going to troll back with a comment. And they would say, oh, your nails look like, hawk talons or something. And I'd be, yeah, better to pick my nose with, I would just come back with like a joke, so it would make me feel better, give me a laugh out of it, and kind of bring down the situation into something not so negative or serious, so I kind of just flip it into something silly.
Yeah.
But obviously it depends on the situation and what it's about.
Yeah. As a complete aside, I had no idea that was the name of the shape of those nails, was a stiletto.
Yes.
I have so much to learn about nail art. I just do press-ons, and that's about that. Yeah, that's good advice though, because it instantly diffuses things, and even for both sides, because you're defensive, they're just being an a-hole, and so as soon as you bring a joke into it, they're like, oh, like she got me, and you're like, okay, I got him, and it just diffuses the whole thing. It's not this big volatile situation anymore. It's like, now it's funny. So I love that. That's great. That might be a little hard to do on the spot for some people like myself. I'm not that witty, but
look, it doesn't work in all situations, but sometimes, sometimes it'll be there for you.
Yeah, love that.
Just try to flip it into something positive. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, they might be pointing out something that you didn't realize, or they may be pointing out something that you could work on and make it better. But like we've said, every situation is going to be different, and every person is going to be different in how the negativity is taken in. So just remember to protect yourself, and you are the one that matters, and not the people that are being the naysayers. They, like you mentioned earlier, they may not even know the situation or what you're going through or all the work you put into something, so don't let it eat you up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to end it. Just a final thought is let Kristen and I be your cheerleader tonight and just tell you, you can do it. This great idea you have is a great idea. You just have to see it through and navigate your way through all the people that are going to tell you can't do it, but you totally can. Whatever that goal is, you got this. It might, be a process, but all good things are, right? Yes. What's that phrase? That all things that are worth it are hard, or something along those lines.
Yep.
If it isn't hard, it isn't worth it. So you got this. And I think that's gonna be it for tonight. Anything else? Any final words?
That sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Thank you to my top tier channel member, Jennifer Brown. She's the Joy Spreader tier on the membership.
Channel members.
Memberships. Yeah, thank you. And thank you to all my other members as well, my support crew. I appreciate you guys. All right, guys, everybody, have an awesome day or night whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
See you next time. Bye.